This gorgeous little guy is a great example of finding a plant that's a really good deal when you're shopping locally by looking through individual pots of succulents until you find one that is overflowing. Most of the plants in this area were about half this size, maybe even a little bit less. And even then they were still a decent price. But this one with these 3 giant stems coming off of it, along with all these little babies, was an extra good deal. And I'm super excited to repot it today and do some propagating with it as well, both cuttings and from leaves. This is a sedum newsbaumerianum. Currently it's very green, but with a little bit of stress, it will turn a bright, bright orange. And that's my goal with these, is to get them back to that orange color. You can do that generally with a temperature change and also with keeping them dry and giving them plenty of light. So any combination of those things will help bring out that nice bright orange stress color. First though, we need to get out of this original pot. And I know there were some leaves that were in the pot, so I'm going to pull those off. I guess it was just those 2. And this root ball is super hard, really, really dry, really compact. Not ideal long term. If you have a succulent like this, the best way to water it is to bottom water it. And if you're not familiar with that, I'll link to a video that talks more about bottom watering. But if you water this from the top, it's almost certainly not going to get soaked all the way through to the center, because this soil is so hard and compact and dry, and it actually repels water when it's this dry. Now this does look like it has healthy roots, but there's not a lot of them. And this is one that just propagates super easily anyway, so I'm not worried about keeping all of the roots attached. I am losing a few leaves, or at least knocking off a few leaves as I try and hang on to this. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull those off and add those to our propagation tray a little bit later. Normally I would try and like rub this between my hands, but I just don't think it's going to do that. Might have leaves and stems go flying if I did. Still though, I'm going to try and just loosen it up as much as I can. Holy cow. It is so hard. This is definitely in need of repotting. All right, that might be as good as we get right there. I usually try and get as much of the original soil off as possible, but I don't get all of it off. But in this case, it's just really compacted right up here by the stem, and I'm worried that if I don't get more off, that these roots won't actually get water when it happens, or they'll stay wet too long. But that looks pretty good. I can see the roots, they look really nice and healthy, and I can kind of see what's going on here. So I have this main stem up in the middle, and then an offshoot on this side, and then I'm gonna break this part off. There we go. It's all of those little baby plants coming off the bottom. So I'm gonna pot these on their own, and I'm gonna chop this up because it's just so unwieldy and large and toppling. So we'll see how we're gonna do that. Okay, I'm gonna pull off some of these lower leaves. This plant, even though I haven't watered it for days, it is very well watered. It's nice and full, and given its color and the spacing of the leaves, I'm almost positive it wasn't getting quite enough light, but it was getting plenty of water. So it's growing quickly. These leaves are really firm, but it just didn't have enough light to maintain that nice orange color. I've actually changed my mind on what I'm gonna do with the repotting. I was gonna chop these up and plant them individually, but what I'm thinking now is I'm gonna put them in a bigger pot, and then I'm gonna put all of the leaf propagations around it. No, I'm not gonna do that because the leaf propagations are gonna need more water. Originally, I said I was gonna chop this up and plant them individually, but I found this blue bonsai pot, and I think I'm gonna plant it in here instead all together. Just keep it kind of low and close to the soil, but keep them all together because they do just look so nice. Now, as I put this down in here, I want the base of these stems to be above the rim of the pot, which means the roots are gonna go right on the bottom of the pot, and I'll just need to make sure that the soil in here is gonna support it. it's wanting to lean a little bit this way, which is fine as long as the stem stays above the soil. I don't want to bury that stem and the leaves. I want to keep it up above the soil line. So as I press down, I think that'll work, although it's kind of lopsided. You can't quite see it from this angle. There we go. You can see it's kind of empty over here. So I'm wondering, I scoot it over. There we go. I like that. Now the place that I'm planting this and the place where it's going to live long term are not the same. So I'll probably have to do a little bit of adjusting once I get it to its final destination. But I like this arrangement better than how it first was. Just a little bit more balanced and fills the space a bit better. Ta-da! All right, so that one's done. Now we need to find a home for these guys. As I'm getting ready to find a pot to put this in, I noticed this little plant is right here at the base, and it's gonna get buried with the way that I'm planning to pot this. So I'm gonna pull that off to propagate it, and then I'm also gonna pull off some of these lower leaves at the bottom. That way, if the stem gets buried, the leaves don't get buried with it, and it's less prone to rot. I have this little round decorative pot that I'm gonna put it into. So just adding a drainage screen. I'm gonna put a little bit of soil in the bottom. And then we'll stick it in. I like this because this line of succulents is just a cool contrast to the round pot shape. Okay, and there is the other piece all potted up. Doesn't that look cool? The way I like to plant my leaf propagation is to put Bonsai Jack gritty mix in my pot and then cover it with about 1/2 inch to 1 inch of coconut coir. That way the top part of the soil stays damp a little bit longer, but once those roots get deep, they're in that gritty mix where they'll have plenty of airflow around the roots and it will dry out more quickly. But I do find that leaves tend to propagate a little bit better on top of the coconut coir than they do on the gritty mix. Nothing super exciting here. We're just gonna lay out all of these leaves on top of the soil. And this pot might be a smidge small for the number of leaves I have, but I don't know if they're all gonna root anyway. So we'll just stick them in and see what happens. Best case scenario, we have a lot of nice tight clusters of orange sedums growing. And just for funsies, we're gonna stick this little cutting in there too. Alrighty, and with that, we now have 3 pots of golden sedum that will go under the grow lights for about 12 hours a day. The lights will be about 6 inches from the top of the plant, and hopefully they get that nice bright orange color within a few weeks from being under the intense grow lights and being slightly dehydrated as well. One of the things I love about planting succulents is when you have ones like this that propagate from leaves, your mistakes turn into bonus plants, or just not being very careful can turn into bonus plants when you have all these little leaves that fall off. And when you're shopping for them, you can also look for pots that have multiple plants in them, as well as pots that have leaves that have fallen off and are also ready to grow. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about this plant or other succulents, feel free to leave a comment below, or if you have suggestions for videos you'd like to see, you can feel free to leave those in the comments as well.